Hello. We today are going to be talking about encryption and quantum computing. But what I'd like to do before I start is have my very distinguished guests introduce themselves. So please.
I'm Susan Langford. I'm Senior Cryptographer for Utimaco Incorporated.
My name is Stephen Bowles. I am the Regional Security Officer for Ingenico in North America, and I also chair ANSI's X9 standards work group on data and information security.
I'm Richard Kisley. I'm with IBM. I'm the HSM architect with IBM, and I'm part of X9 and part of X9's representative group to ISO, focused on payment security, and IBM's representative to PCI in the Board of Advisors.
Hi, my name is Joachim Vance. I'm Chief Security Architect for Verifone, and I'm also the technical editor for the X9 139 standard, which is an asymmetric key block standard, which we hope will be quantum safe in the next couple of years.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Wait, we're doing standards plugs? Okay. Can we come back?
Darn, I forgot to do that.
We'll come back around later on.
All right.
No worries.
So what is more fun than a panel on cryptography? An interactive panel on cryptography. So there will be audience participation. If we can go to the first Slido, please. So there's a QR code there which you can scan with your mobile phone. That'll give you access to the ability to provide an answer to the questions that we'll have. We'll only have a few. But this one particularly here to start off with, do you know what a quantum computer is and what risks these types of computers potentially pose for classical cryptography? Give it a little while for people to provide an answer. I'm going to have to put my glasses on to see how that's going, I'm afraid. OK, doing well. Lots of people know what it is. Excellent. I'm going to put these down here because I might need them later on. All right, OK, so while this is continuing on, Joachim, could you give us an overview of what a quantum computer is and why we're talking about it today, essentially?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a higher percentage than I thought we were going to see. I think there's been a lot of publicity about quantum computing. But a lot of people don't realize why maybe it's a risk or what it really is. You might have heard of it before. But essentially, like in standard or classical computing, you have bits. There's zeros and ones. You can think of it like a heads of a coin, right? Heads and tails. So you have it's either a 0 or a 1. Well, quantum computer is more like taking a coin and spinning it, and so you don't know if it's a 0 or 1. It's both at the same time. So those are called qubits. So quantum computers are made out of qubits. And the reason that we care is that quantum computers can be used for probabilistic type of algorithms. So figuring out maybe what the next medicine is going to be, or some biological compound that can maybe digest microplastics. But it can also be then also used to discern maybe what the factors of a key are for like RSA or ECC. And so that's why we care about quantum computers, is they pose a risk to those kind of asymmetric key cryptography.
Excellent, thank you. And for those people who can't see, we can see the results here. Ended up about 80-20. 80% people knowing what a quantum computer is, and 20% not. So if we can go to the next Slido, please. Another question, same link, so you should be able to see this. What types of cryptographic algorithm are at risk to be attacked by quantum computers? Asymmetric, symmetric, both. If you can provide your answers here, we'll give it just a little while. Seeing the answers there up on the board. So we've got a number of folks answering now, and it seems to most people are saying both. So Susan, would you be able to provide some information around this? Should we be worried about only one type of algorithm or both?
OK, this is a very knowledgeable audience, really. I'm very impressed. Yes, the asymmetric algorithms, RSA and elliptic curve, are incredibly at risk. Those are the ones you said, they are most at risk. The symmetric ones, there's an attack, it cuts the key size in half. Now, there is some debate about how practical the attack will be, how long it will take after we have a machine that breaks RSA, how long before there's an attack that can actually attack these symmetric algorithms. Jury's still out on that. But if you're conservative, you use AES 256. If you're, use AES 128.
OK, excellent, thank you. OK, that's it for the Slidos now. For now, we might come back to some later on. But I'm going to come to you, Richard, first. This year we saw the number of qubits required to break RSA 2048-bit go from 20 million to 1 million, so a drop of essentially an order of magnitude there, a little bit more. Are we going to see that continue to drop? Are we going to see both quantum computers improve in terms of the number of qubits they can deploy, and also the required number of qubits drop as we optimize how the algorithms work?
Yes, so that number from 20 million to 1 million, that's noisy qubits. And companies are coming out with logical qubit-based quantum computers now. And IBM has a roadmap for a quantum computer with a logical qubit at the end of next year. There are already industry strides being made with quantum computers for solving interesting problems. I was checking the news today, and there were a couple announcements from IBM for HSBC, and then a partnership with Vanguard looking at portfolio optimization. And the interesting part of that is they were able to show with not even that many qubits, and they were noisy qubits. They were able to show an optimization for that VQA algorithm that was better than classical by itself for portfolio optimization. So that's just one use case. It's specific to financial services for market portfolios, and there are many other use cases. And we're focused on the attack from quantum computers on these algorithms, asymmetric algorithms. But that's not why people are building these quantum computers, right? They're building them to solve real business problems, and we're starting to see that. Now, will we see more hype? Will we see interesting or weird papers that kind of debunk some of the toy use cases you see for the early factoring results? I think so. I think there will be a lot more hype, but I'm very positive based on the results and the engineering progress from IBM and other companies, right? We're not the only one certainly making these advancements, right? There's amazing results from Google and some of the other companies. So this looks like an engineering problem. It's not science fiction anymore. It's the next few years we will see these. So yes, and I do think the results will get better, and I think we'll be able to build logical qubits with fewer noisy qubits over time.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to come to you now, Stephen. The payment industry has used, or continued to use, single DES for quite a while after we knew single DES was broken. But it's not you still, shh. But we used robust key management such as DUKPT and so forth to help mitigate the risks posed by single DES. Are we going to see similar things with the move as we move to AES and other algorithms where we'll still be using classical algorithms even though they're potentially more at risk from these new types of computing powers?
I think there's no doubt that from a pragmatic risk-based approach to dealing with this problem that we are going to see a mix of classical and quantum-safe algorithms used for some time to go. And I think as we approach this problem, we're going to have to look at, where are the risks, where are the important data sets that need to be protected. If we think about kind of the risks that are being theorized with quantum computers, it's those, the breaking of the RSA keys or whatever, that's going to open up the data warehouses. It's going to put processing environments at risk. It's going to put all of those aggregation points primarily would be the potential first targets for attackers using these mechanisms. So I think, as you go through and you inventory your systems and you try and figure out where are my risks, that's where we've got it almost backwards from what we did with DES to AES, or single DES to triple DES, where we focused on the terminals and the endpoints and improving that, because that's where the physical attacks were happening to break into those systems. We've got to do it the other way around in this, is that we've got to secure the back end, secure the high asset targets, improve our PKIs, and then we can worry about the endpoints, because the endpoints are only sending transactions, and one of the beautiful things we do have in the financial industry is that data, outside of the PII that falls into a transaction data, the transaction data itself and the purchase information, it's temporal, right? It's something that only has value for a short period of time. And as soon as that transaction is complete, the value of the data primarily disappears. So, I think if we can focus on the back end, the data warehouses, the tokenization centers, all of these sorts of things where the high value assets are, we may be using triple DES duck put or AES duck put from the POI back to the processing gateway for many years to come. How you deal with it in the back end is a different story.
Does anybody else want to add anything to that? Joachim, I know AES duckput was mentioned, and you were involved with writing the standardization.
Yes, Susan and I actually
We were
co-proposed.
Oh, both of you?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
we
go.
were the
Editors
co-proposers
here.
in 2009. Oh my gosh, how
Yeah.
long did it take? Standards take way too long.
Yeah.
I do think that, there's a lot to say that the technologies we are using now, the cryptography we are using now, will be safe for quite a long time. But yeah, I also agree, like hybrid approaches and having good transitions to being able to use new algorithms is going to be very important.
Okay. So I'm going to stick with you for a second, Joachim, because Richard kind of mentioned there might be articles coming out that disparage what's happening with quantum computing. And earlier this year, we saw a paper come out from Peter Gutmann that was quite disparaging to the state of quantum computing and to the applications that have been demonstrated and talked about in terms of factorizing numbers, and essentially was saying they're all smoke and mirrors. Do you have any opinions on that? Are we actually on a path to these things being practical, or have we yet to demonstrate their utility?
So it's kind of funny. I've gone through a little bit of a swing in my procession on quantum computing and what the risk is for our algorithms. I used to be a 30-year kind of guy, and then I kind of, in the panels recently, I've been talking about maybe more like 10. But when I read the paper from Peter Gutmann, I wasn't sure that I agreed with him, because he was very pessimistic around, like, this is all smoke and mirrors, and nothing really here is really true, and he's very sarcastic in this paper. It's a fun paper to read if you like cryptography, insider baseball stuff, right?
And who doesn't like cryptography?
Well, there you go, right? But I think there's something that he's saying that's very true, and as I've dug into more and more, so somebody might say, oh, we had these RSA, factoring competitions back in the day, like the RSA company would say, hey, you get a prize, and certainly, your name on the wall, and like you're so good because you've broken RSA at the smaller numbers, and they got bigger and bigger, just kind of see as a way to say, hey, there's a contest, let's figure out like how fast is factoring technology happening, what key size should we be at, right? We're not doing that with quantum computers yet. I think it's something that we need to create a contest for to say, okay, who's got the best Shor's algorithm implementation on a quantum computer? But as I've dug into it, I thought the numbers were pretty big, that they were factoring with Shor's algorithm. That's the one that breaks RSA and ECC. We have real quantum computers now, so then somebody must have done something. I came across that the largest number that's actually been factored with a real implementation of Shor's algorithm was the number 21. Not like a 21-bit number, but like the number 21, right? And I'm like, okay, that's odd. And then to find out further, and I don't know if Peter Gutmann references this, that there actually has never been a proper implementation of Shor's algorithm. So the answer is actually none. There has not been a quantum computer that's factored any numbers so far. So to me, that says a lot about where we're not, right? Doesn't mean that we're not going to get there quickly or that we can't, and I think there's a risk factor here that we have to play, that we always have to play in this industry, right? How much of a risk do you take that this isn't going to happen for 30 years? I don't think we can take that risk. I think we have to say this possibly is going to happen in a shorter time frame than we realize. In reality, do I think it's going to happen in that short time frame? Probably not, but we need to plan for it to be a shorter time frame. So I agree with Peter Gutmann, but I also agree we need to plan for it to be a shorter time frame because we can't take the risk. It takes too long to change things in our industry, so we have to start planning now.
And the one question in that, right, is why aren't we hearing about this factoring stuff? And you wonder, is some of that data actually being held back for fear of what it might drive the industry to?
Well, we were talking about this yesterday, and my question yesterday was, what's the business case for doing, a factorization beyond 21? And whose interest is it in to publicly go after such?
Right, because when you think about the business value of what quantum computers are being able to, there's more value in trying to be able to solve, knapsack problems or traveling salesman problems and that sort of thing that'll actually start generating revenue. You may not start to see this stuff talked about publicly until a quantum computer is something that is more readily accessible by the hacktivists and other people outside who want to challenge the technology.
We forget that that was why they did the RSA challenges in the beginning, was people came up with all these theoretical how hard it was, and then people would argue that, nah, you're overestimating this, or you're underestimating that. And so the RSA company put those challenges out there to give people academic bragging rights to incentivize them to do that. And right now, other than the headlines, there's not a lot of incentive to do factoring with a quantum computer.
But I disagree with that. I mean, if I'm a nation state, I want to encourage the organizations and the vendors within my, with my boundaries to say, hey, you need to transition by 2030 or 2035. Right now, there's a big question mark to say, okay, I might need to do it because it's regulatory, but maybe it's not a real thing. And so I think we should encourage organizations to...
That depends on which part of the nation state is talking. The guys who are saying, yeah, if you all stay on RSA, we can do a lot of spying, don't want that published. So it's really who has the mic right now.
It's signals intelligence. It's the best practices don't reveal that you know or how you know, because it can reveal too much about your program. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. There's an incentive that drives people to do that public expose of factoring yet right now.
I think it's a data point, and it's a significant one. And if we don't see numbers that are being factored at all, it's a question that whether we're actually getting anywhere.
So we've got the mic right now, so we're going to continue on with the questions. But along these lines, and to you, Susan, we've talked a lot about quantum computers and the move to post-quantum algorithms and so forth. And it's what kind of in cryptographic circles, all the cool kids, that's what we talk about.
Right.
But are we missing something in being focused on quantum computing and post-quantum cryptography? Is there's something else we should be thinking of at this point as well?
As far as for the payments world, which is the one I know most about what's in the real world, it's all about getting rid of triple DES, getting to AES, that I think is huge. But I think that is going along with it, so I don't feel like it's really preventing that migration. And then, of course, is the key management. That key management is always hard to do right, and that's where a lot of the attacks in the real world happen.
Yep.
So, but that's not something that the quantum really interferes with, because it's just a totally separate set of people to figure out. And the key management problem isn't a resource problem so much as an understanding problem, and that's always going to be a problem.
And actually, a separate question to this, because that's interesting. Is the introduction of post-quantum algorithms, are they going to change any of the requirements, any of the processes, any of the ways we think about key management? Or is the key management still the same thing? Or do we need to think about things differently when we're moving to post-quantum algorithms?
Yeah, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I mean, there's a lot of different factors in. The biggest thing for the post-quantum ML-Chem is that it won't give you an error. It gives you a random wrong result. And that is going to freak users out. So yes, there are things that are going to have to change how we do stuff. Perfect forward secrecy is a little dicier with post-quantum algorithms than it is with ECC. But we can make them work. So the basic fundamentals, what we're trying to do, will stay much the same.
Okay, excellent. So when we're talking about the transition here as well, and we had a similar panel last year where we were talking about cryptography things and so forth. I think at the end of that, we basically came to the conclusion that one of the most important things that everybody in the audience, everybody who's in this industry can do right now is take an assay, figure out where they've got cryptography, where they're using it, so that they know where they need to update their cryptography when they need to transition through this path. To the general panel now, how is that going? How are we going? It's a year later now. How do you think it's going in terms of people taking stock of their cryptographic algorithm use and thinking about how they might change them?
It's progressing. I think to a certain degree, things like the new requirements, PCI DSS, 4 family, have challenged the community to actually think about these things as much. There's some great guidance on that sort of stuff in the new guidance paper that was put out on cryptography from PCI. So I think people are starting to get it, but it's still a work in progress. I mean, people are getting, and the big challenge is where are the systems that I don't know about? I manage, in my organization in North America, there are I have 3 key injection facilities, and you're always finding crypto systems buried somewhere that you've never heard about that some developer created. So, I think that's one of the challenges, is that there's the systems but you got to keep digging, because there's probably a heck of a lot more out there than you realize, or that's definitely documented in your corporate policies.
Okay.
I don't think we're doing enough. I mean, we're doing more than we were last year. Last
Yes.
year, nobody was saying anything. I'm getting now customers actually coming up and saying, hey, what's your quantum roadmap? That's great. I mean, I'd love to hear that. And honestly, if there's anything I can tell you, go talk to your vendors and tell them ask them what their quantum roadmap is, because it'll freak them out, and then they'll go like, actually, maybe go do something some of the times, right? Because nobody's going to do anything unless customers are asking for it at the end of the day, to some degree, or if there's a regulation around it. But I think that one thing that we can do now, because there aren't a lot of, we can talk about this, but we're still waiting for some of the standards to catch up. I mean, just because NIST released the 3, and now they have one more and another one that they've added to the post-quantum safe algorithms that you could transition to, doesn't mean that they're ready for prime time, that you can actually use them in any code today, or that you have interoperability in systems. That's still a work in progress. A lot of the organizations are all trying to work together, and some of them are having dependencies on one another. But what you can do today is you can inventory, and you can start to ask questions. Okay, where do we have things in our environment? There are industry organizations that you can also join that will give you some insight as to what others are doing. So there's some really neat organizations that are going on around that can start to find out like what other people are doing. And I think you can also look within your own organization to say, where do we think there might be groups that have knowledge about cryptography? And it might not just be for like payment cryptography, it might be IT, or like the IT infrastructure has a lot of cryptography in it, and there's a good kismet between these organizations. Like, people should come together and start to collaborate on, hey, where can we identify where we have cryptography that might be at risk, and not necessarily even saying what should we do about it, but at least identify where do we have it, and then you can come up with a plan for what to do about it.
Yep. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So,
I could answer.
of course, please. I'm sorry.
You're just skipping right over. It's like this little train.
I can't see you from back here. Please.
No, I'm joking. So I think there's a perspective that we get from the IBM clients where there's a lot of people that have been looking at inventory over the last couple of years, and some people are further along than others, but you do see people that have completed their first project in that area. They've had their round of consulting last year, and they've taken on inventory, and they're in the planning phases. So that's a big step forward from last year. And there's some people that are getting ready to do that. So I think it's still a mix.
One thing I was just going to mention really too is that's driving some of this is some organizations are starting to see this as a cyber risk insurance issue. So some of the cyber risk insurance companies are asking, what's your quantum risk plan? So that's going to help drive some of these questions as well.
And probably the other area in it too is that the evidence that I'm seeing of people doing their crypto inventory is that I'm starting to get more and more people talk to us about key migration and crypto periods and setting up keys and recognizing I've got a key that's been here for 4 years, 10 years. I need to change this thing because there's risk to the fact that this key has existed for some time. So that's another very positive sign that these conversations are starting to happen. People are starting to understand the issues and the risk.
Yeah, we've been saying here's an opportunity along with the AES migration. So I think one thing we do need to continue to focus on is the AES migration, but it's an opportunity to invest in knowing the cryptography in your organization, where the keys are, and then start looking at agility as a way to go forward.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. And so you mentioned AES, and AES has been around for 24, 25 years now as a standard, and I think everybody is very confident, correct me if I'm saying anything wrong here, but very confident with the security that's provided by AES. But these new algorithms, these post-quantum algorithms that you mentioned, Joachim, they're very new. They've very recently been standardized. Does that create any cause for concern? Should people be confident in them because they are standardized? What's the risk that somebody's going to find a problem with these algorithms themselves in the next months or years to come?
So the risk is very high. Crypto algorithms have infant mortality, just like most other things, and these are all relative babies. NIST has done a fantastic job trying to get the best analysis they can. NSA has come out swinging and say we trust them completely, just use them, no hybrid mode. So you have a set of experts that are putting their reputations on the line that these things are great. But yeah, there's always a risk. That's why most of us are saying, hey, do a hybrid mode, do something that you're accustomed to, one of the ones that you trust before quantum hits, plus one of these new ones, and then as long as at least one is good, you're in good shape. Also, these things don't tend to snap entirely. They tend to break slowly. So you, in general, will have time. It won't be as much time as we like, because it never is. But you can start seeing the cracks form and go, maybe we should think about moving to something else if something is found that is a weakness.
Interesting. And so is the lesson from that as we look to, migrating to AS, migrating to post-quantum, the real kind of lesson to be learned is crypto agility, being able to quickly change things out, because you might have to, at some point, change these algorithms that you're changing to.
It is a lesson, but it gets, I am one of the crypto agility cynics of the group, because it is a goal we have to try, but it is never as easy as the people like to say. If we build the system right, we can go and tomorrow you can switch to something else for free. It ain't going to ever be that easy. Systems don't work like that. QA doesn't work like that. Costs don't work like that. So there's always going to be a cost and overhead for any change. But yes, the biggest thing to remember in crypto, for DES, then triple DES, then AES, we had a bunch of algorithms that we have been incredibly fortunate with, that we had a huge lifetime out of them. There is no guarantee in cryptography.
Yeah. One of the things about agility is just that idea that we're going to have to, we're coming up with our plans, kind of like Bernie was talking about. We've got our plan A. We need our plan Bs and our plan Cs, because something's going to come up, whether it's that an implementation maybe doesn't work on a particular computing platform, or it doesn't work in a particular use case, or it gets broken. Like, these sorts of things are going to create roadblocks that we're going to have to adapt and overcome to actually get to the end goal. So I think, making sure that we don't get locked into, whether it's locked into bit strength or locked into an algorithm or all of these things, we've got to make sure we contemplate the what if.
Yep.
Yeah, even if nothing is broken, there is a finite life to everything.
If we're going to use the F1 example, I think we have to think about how flexible are we in being able to change things, right?
Yeah.
I think when we go back to looking at, do we trust the new algorithms or not? That's kind of like, okay, do you have your dry tires on? I guess you trust it until it rains, right? At some point. And do you have an ability to have one that can do wet and dry at the same time? Well, that's hybrid, right? We have that ability today. I think there's an interesting question here, and to me it's a risk question. Do you put your full trust in one of the new algorithms, and I think you might be fine, but there's a risk that maybe the algorithm is fine, but the things that people don't think about is humans are implementing these algorithms, and attackers are finding ways to break and get access to the keys, not because they broke the algorithm, but because they did a side channel attack. There's this whole thing called side channel attacks, that you come in from the side and you listen and you get signals intelligence, and then next thing you have a key. The algorithm is fine, right? We don't know how hard it's going to be to secure these new algorithms from side channel attacks. And it's going to be hard. And we know that even some of the new algorithms are going to be sexy and fast, like Falcon, which will be FIPS 206, I think. it has a lot of side channel problems, and that's one of the reasons why my NIST delayed it. So I think from a hybrid approach, you get the benefit of saying, hey, I got the new thing, it's quantum safe. If there is a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, that's the thing we all worry about. It's the big thing that's beyond all the practical implementations, right?
Yep.
But then I also have the traditional stuff that I come along with it. I can do both at the same time, and I get the best of both worlds. It's more complicated, and I think the biggest risk there is, did we create complexity? Because we know complexity is the enemy of security. But maybe that's the right hedge to make, right? So everybody has to make a risk decision here on what they think is the right approach, but it comes down to risk management, I think.
Yep.
I would look at it from a layers perspective. So I think there is a layer where you really cannot have agility, and we're all device vendors, so it's at the root of trust in the device. It's very difficult to build a device where you can change the device attestation or the base layer of firmware signing. It's possible, but what do you trust in order to put the new key into a device if you have an agile device key, which the concept itself kind of makes you shiver a little bit, but the devices are not built for that today, right? You have a root of trust in the device, and you can't change it. So some devices are being built right now with hybrid capabilities where they're dual signed, that have dual attestation, but that's not the majority of devices. And moving forward, if one or both of those algorithms are attacked, then you need to get another device. But above that layer of the system, you can define and design with agility and with hybrid capabilities in mind, and really go further than that root of trust in the device can. And that way you have a system that is resilient when you change the device. And on side channel, I would just comment that the round 3 summary from NIST did say that the side channel analysis for the algorithms that they picked for finalists was roughly even, which is not a resounding endorsement. It's saying none of these is worse than the others.
Yeah.
But they did call out Falcon because side channel for floating point was really an open territory for research, and not just figuring out how to do the hardening, figuring out the attacks that they would need to harden against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned root of trust there, and we're running out of time, so just relatively quickly, are we seeing devices, HSMs, POIs, these sorts of things, starting to come out with support for quantum safe algorithms now at the root of trust level, or is that still yet to come?
So, and I want to jump in again, and we talked about this yesterday as well. So what does support mean? If I make a device that's secured with elliptic curve, but it offers MLChem and MLDSA, should you trust it? Right, and so the device attestation, in other words, I am an IBM device, I am a Utimaco device, or an Ingenico device, or a Verifone device, right? I realized as I started listing, I needed to list all of them, so I apologize. But if that is a certificate, and it's signed with elliptic curve, and only elliptic curve, that's my level of trust. If elliptic curve is broken, I can't trust that device anymore. And so the fact that it offers MLChem or MLDSA services it doesn't really fit the security of the rest of the stack. So when I look at what is the service of the device, I want that device to be secured with at least hybrid in order to be able to offer post-quantum crypto services.
Anybody else on that?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not an intractable problem, but it's a hard problem. And to me, it's the thing that's going to come last. We're going to see implementations in software. We already see, I saw the announcement about Signal recently did a quantum safe Signal protocol. It's very good. There's a blockchain proposal for Bitcoin that's a quantum safe proposal that's also very good. A lot of thought has been going. So we're going to see software implementations in TLS that are quantum safe. We already have them today. They're kind of weird because they're using algorithms that were pre-NIST right now, but we'll see them become using the NIST algorithms as well. So software is easy at the end of the day, so we'll start to see that. Hardware is harder. Key management is harder, but the hardware is even harder. The way I see it for the payments industry is that the HSM vendors are going to hit there first because they're already getting that pressure. But then for the POI vendors, we're going to ride the coattails of what we already need to see in laptops and mobile devices, right? Mobile devices and tablets are all going to have to hit this space. and the POI devices will take advantage of the, the Qualcomms of the world. And I'm already in discussions with Qualcomm about making quantum-safe bootloaders so that the firmware is being validated with a quantum-safe signature or a hybrid signature. And I think that's what we need to see, but it'll take a few years. I'm not expecting anything broadly deployed in less than 3 to 5 years, probably.
Well, like everything, it's what risk you're trying to mitigate. If you're trying to mitigate against an external attacker, you sign something with a post-quantum algorithm in a hardware that isn't protected against an insider attack. If you're not worried about insider attacks for that particular risk, okay, you can live with it for a while. If you're worried about your insiders, then yes, you need to worry about that now. So yes, we absolutely have to take the lead in the HSMs, but like I said, it's everything. You have to figure out what your risk is, who your attackers are, and work from there.
Well, so you're giving an example just to kind of explain a little bit better. When you're saying insider attack, is like your HSMs are in a data center, right? I mean, and they're controlled by the cages or locked doors and things like that. Your POI devices are sitting out there on a gas pump, right? So
right, exactly.
There's a different attack model that I think we have to worry about.
Yeah, really, like I said, you need to understand your attack model and who has access and what kind of attacks they will do. Yeah, the ransomware attack, it's an insider attack. They look like an
and there's
insider.
potentially going to be different approaches to the problem. Like you could easily see, in what you've got to do with assets in a data center, like an HSM, yeah, you're going to want to find ways to migrate them. But with a POI that's out in the field, and especially if you look at the risk scenario, maybe the solution ends up being dropping the asymmetric authentication mechanisms that are in those and finding symmetric mechanisms based on the AES 256-bit keys that can be and should be available in these devices at the top level. There's different ways to kind of break that, to deal with that problem depending on what it is, and that's where we need that plan B and the plan C to adapt to what happens in the environment.
Okay, I am going to have to move on because I did threaten more Slidos, and they're going to come up now. So if we can get to our next Slido, please. Oh, there we go. Once again, I forget I need glasses to read this. Okay, so for the audience, get your Slido ready, and then we'll come to the panel with this question as well, but not yet. From a 0, where 0 is no chance, to 5, it is absolutely certain, what is the chance we will see RSA 1024-bit demonstrably broken by 2035? I'm going to give it a little time for people to jump in. So lots of people coming in that it's certain. Give it a little while. I reckon we can still creep that up a little bit further. Okay, so for the panel, before you say anything, what we're going to do is a fist means 0, and a 5 is certain. And I don't want everybody to check everybody out and cheat on what you're going to say. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, what do we think? Ooh, that's interesting. We have a 1 and a 5. That's different to the answer.
I'm not even on the Slido. Like nobody, I'm the only one that has a 1. Nobody in the audience.
Nobody's a 1.
Interesting. Okay, next slide, please. Next Slido, that is. Same question. So once again, we'll leave the audience to add some things here, except now we're talking about RSA 2048-bit. What are the chances? Does this change the way you feel about the risk of cryptographically relevant quantum computing? We're talking about a larger key size. Even it a little bit longer here. Once again, same rules here. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, more people on the fence for that one. Interesting. Okay, different question now to the panel. With those threats that you were listing for 1024-bit and 2048-bit, do you think that if you thought it was going to be broken, do you think that's going to be broken by a quantum computer first, or just by the regular advance of cryptanalysis?
How are we signaling that one? Are we just supposed to answer, or are we
Just-
supposed to hold up the hand?
Okay, let's say for quantum computer it's a fist, for cryptanalysis it's a 5. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, well, we're essentially out of time here, and I do want to make sure I get everybody off to lunch on time.
Can I give one plug?
You can give one plug.
So I think one takeaway that you want from this panel is a desire to be involved and a desire to have headlights to these problems and challenges that are coming towards you in the industry. And so I would say being involved with PCI, I'm kind of speaking to the audience, but being involved with PCI is one way to have visibility, right? And visibility leads to better outcomes and cheaper outcomes as you look at these challenges and try to solve them. Right, and PCI is a great place to start. X9 and ISO are also great places to be involved for payment security for your enterprise.
That was an excellent plug. Thank you very much. But what I would like to do is please thank my brilliant panel here. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please, a round of applause for everybody. I really found it fascinating. Thank you very much. And hopefully everybody can talk about cryptography over lunch. Thank you. Thank you all.